I think he's now in as well. Yeah, but definitely, it's an interesting poll, and it's fun to look back at that draft and see all the players and how they've changed, how teams have changed. But
yeah, I mean, it should be an exciting next week and then into playoffs in Major League here. But now, if we want to shift gears to 180 and turn over to the minor league side of things, I know a lot of minor league players, minor league fans like to tune in and watch their segment. So first off, we're just going to start out with a recap of last week in the minor league and what went on. Squeal, if you want to take that one away.
yeah. So I believe we're starting with the Challenger Conference. So just give a quick breakdown. We currently have...
It's the recap.
Yeah. Let me pull that up. I apologize. I thought I had that wide open. All right, so a recap of the recent games. So, big win we have, or first game we have, is Nova over Lucky Sevens 2-1. It's an expected win for Nova to beat Lucky Sevens, to be honest. But Lucky Sevens is currently in a wild card race right now with Snowmen. I think they have B Squad competing with them on the other side of their divisions. But it's currently super important that these wins happen, and Lucky Sevens got close, but just barely could not get it out over Nova, despite them being able to do it against some other teams. Anybody's thoughts on just the general?
For Nova versus Lucky Sevens, well, like you did say, Nova was the favorite in that game. Nova tied for first place in the Cosmic Division in the Challenger Conference, 19-4. Lucky Sevens, they are just outside of wildcard spot by half a game, so that was kind of a blow to them. I mean, if you find yourself in a hole, you really have to upset the top teams, and it didn't work out for them.
And then the other two, or the next two ones, are actually connected to each other. Omega versus Animosity 2-1, and Omega over Hydra 2-1. Omega has been on an upwards climb. I think they originally really had a lot of problems at the beginning of the season. I think at the very beginning they started off hot, but everything kind of started to get a little shaky for them, and now they've found form, and these two big wins have actually put them on top of their division. They used to be in a wild card race with Century, Newton's Law, even Primal, but now they're pretty high and dry, and I think they've made it clear. So those are two big wins this past week for them. Any thoughts on those?
Well, I was just going to point out that Omega, I mean, they're 17-7, and I mean, if you look over at Hydra, they're 18-5. And a lot of our stats and a lot of people, they look at records and just say, oh, well, they have a better record, they must be a better team. Well, Omega is proving us wrong. They're at the top of the Steel Division now. Take those two wins away against the two highest teams in the Chrome Division. They're down, even maybe in second place. I don't know how Primal did, obviously, this past week. But showing that record really doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, obviously, they're higher than Animosity is. But beating Hydra is huge for them, giving them even a little bit of breathing room over Primal, who I think has even the game in hand.
I agree. And then the last game we have, Solar over Toxic Waste, another 2-1 matchup that resulted in Solar winning. Toxic Waste has had a little bit of a problem recently. This past week they lost to Solar, obviously, and then Average Joe's Gym as well. And I think the week before they took some strange losses to other teams that have kind of put them in a little bit, or close to jeopardy. They're still safe, I believe, but they're pulled back into that wild card fray that they're now sharing with Century and Newton's Law. So watching what happens to Toxic Waste in this last week, given their performance this past week, is going to be pretty interesting.
Definitely.
Cut out.
Yeah, it does sound like that. Oh, yep, it is.
No, you're back.
Right, well, I guess we can move on over to the standings now, as we go into the Challenger Conference this time.
Challenger, yep.
Okay. All right, so starting off the Cosmic Division, we have Nova and Pinnacle tied for first at 19-4 apiece. I think the only thing that's separating them is that Nova has actually beaten Pinnacle twice on both of their matchups that actually happened at the very beginning of the season. Next at 14-9. And then we have a big drop off from there as we get CO2 5-19 and Meme Squad and Global Asex 1-20 and 1-21 respectively. Pretty clear cut. Do y'all have any thoughts about Cosmic Division in general?
I mean, obviously that's a really tight race for the first spot. Whoever gets that will get a bye. Toxic Waste. It looks like they've pretty much all but got a spot locked down, unless Newton Slaw went on a big run here to end the season. But yeah, just a close race. That's all I'd have to say.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Toxic holds up this last week. They do have a game over at the moment. I don't think it's even statistically possible for them to catch up to Pinnacle or Nova this week. Not to mention that they have games to play as well. But it'll be interesting to see. It'd definitely be a week to watch for Toxic Waste and everyone else who's kind of trying to trail them to seal in their playoff spot.
Yeah. I think both Nova and Pinnacle have relatively easy schedules. CO2 players have traditionally had very bad scheduling issues. I think recently they've started playing more and they've actually gotten some big wins. So I know Nova and Pinnacle both play CO2 coming up next, but then they also, of course, play Meme Squad and Global Asex, which are probably going to be wins. Might even be just forfeits. And then they both have games against Toxic Waste, which is exactly where this whole issue of Toxic Waste possibly getting pulled into that wildcard fray could happen. If they lose those games, that could be really big news for either Sentry or Newton's Law to make a push.
But that could also, on the flip side of that, Toxic Waste, if they steal a match against Nova or Pinnacle, that could change the tide for the first place race and for those two teams. So that could this one team, Toxic Waste, I mean obviously as well, but Toxic Waste has a whole lot of it has a relatively large hold on the entire minor league right now. It seems like just for the I lost the word. Wildcard spot. Thank you, Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Moving on to the other division then. We're in the
Steel division. So we have Omega at 17-7. We discussed their two big wins this week. Actually, I think they had 4. I think they won out.
We had an accidental switch, I believe.
Back to the Challenger Conference.
Yeah. Omega at 17-7 right now, and then we also have Primal at 15-8, who again is just what is a clear race between Sentry, Newton's Law, and Toxic Waste for that wild card spot. Sentry at 13-9, Newton's Law 12-11, and then the drop off comes where we have Insight at 6-14, and OWA 0-23, and I'm pretty sure it's 0-24 now. That first round draft pick for next season.
I mean, that might not be how we do it. Teams that forfeit every game, I don't think we're going to reward with getting a draft pick. They forfeit every game.
Just turn around here, guys.
But yeah, going on the Steel Division, Sentry, obviously, they won the championship last season. They're at 13-9, holding on to that final wildcard spot. Based on their players they have, if they do get into the playoffs, I think they could definitely be a team to watch to make a deep run.
Who do they play this week? That might have a little bit of
Sentry. Look. Sentry.
Insight, OWA, and Newton's Law.
So that's at least, I mean, depending on if Insight plays the game, that's could possibly be 2 free wins. The Newton's Law one might be a little bit of a big matchup as well for a minor league, for that minor league clash, because depending on the outcome of those games, that could flip flop their position on the wild card standing. So that'll be one to watch.
I mean, it's the biggest opportunity that Newton's Law has to take over Century, and then it's also has to expand their lead. Rather than things in the hands of hoping that the team loses to somebody else, that's their.
I think you cut out.
Yeah.
But anyway, we can move on to the other conference over in the Star Conference, or sorry, League Conference. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I've been traveling all day, so I'm a bit tired. Sorry for that. But over in the Star Conference, in the Crim Division, we have Hydra 18-5 leading the way, trying to solidify that first round bye. And then we have Animosity in second, 15-7. And I'm just going to do the top 2 teams in each thing. And then the Iron, we have Solar, best record in the minors, 22-2. And then Average Joe's 16-8. Average Joe's has been around since season 1. They were one of the original teams, and they have consistently been a playoff contender each year. So it's kind of like a dynasty, if you want to say that. But the top 2 teams in each division, what do you have to say about that, Freaky?
To be honest, I mean, it just looks, both have a very good hold on their number 1 position, Solar and Hydra. As for second place in each, a little bit shaky there for a few of those teams. I think Average Joe's will hold their spot there. They do have that 4-game lead over Snowmen, so the wild card race will be quite thick, I think, for this one, because Animosity on the other side in the Chrome, though their spot may have a little bit of challenge depending on how B Squad does on their next 4 games. The wild card on this side will definitely be something to keep an eye on, because 3 of the 4 teams I wouldn't really consider Quantum to be one of the teams to watch for this, but Snowmen, Lucky Sevens, and B Squad all within 1 game there, so that's going to be a very interesting race to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely that wild card race there. I don't know how much closer you can get to that. Mm-hmm. You have B Squad 13-11. They had the first one. Snowmen 12-11 the second one. And L7, I'm pretty sure they've been at like 500 the whole season. 12-12. So, who do you think will get the 2 spots in that wild card race?
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because I do notice that Snowmen does, unless they've played it since these were last updated, they are at 12-11, so meaning they have at least 1 game to play. So that could either put them down a game, or that could put them up with B Squad, putting a little bit more pressure on L7. At the moment, I would think B Squad will hold their position and get at least, or will get one of those wild cards. And then I do think, well, it really depends on how Snowmen perform on that. If they lose it, in my opinion, L7 may have the upper hand, simply for just because of the not necessarily the record, but upcoming games. I'm trying to find them.
Yeah, I actually have an interesting thing to note here for Snowmen.
They play each other. Yeah.
Yes, but Lucky Sevens has to face off against Solar and Average Joe's Gym, and then they have Rebellion as one of their matches. And I mean, at this point, Rebellion's kind of forfeiting a lot. I think they're still playing sometimes, but I would expect a win out of that one. However, the other 2 are very difficult, and then they play Snowmen versus Lucky Sevens. But on Snowmen's side of things, they have 2 matches, one against Rainbow and the other against Rebellion. And teams are kind of on forfeiting sprees right now. But I think they still might be playing. I kind of would expect 2 wins from Snowmen there, and then if Snowmen can get it over Lucky Sevens, then you've got it right there. You've got the wild card position locked down.
Yeah, for sure. Shift gears a little bit, and we're going to switch over to the minor league stats, which are updated. We just want to pull that up real quick. Let me find it there. So in the minor league stats, MF Problem 1.57 leading the way, and then Jared, who we are actually going to interview in a bit, at 1.53 in second. Then Boca, 1.50 third. And the assists, Jared up there again. So all around great season for him. He's tied with Python at 0.94. Green Camo just a little back with 0.92. And then saves per game, Atreus 1.71. Zach from Newton Saw 1.44. And Scout Brett, who's been in the RLPC for quite a while, 1.44. And going over to points, goals plus assists, Jared 2.47 leading the way, definitely in the MVP race in the minor league. Boca 2.32, and then Problem at 2.17. Any interesting things you guys want to point out there?
All I can point out is that it seems like there are definitely a few frontrunners who carry their teams quite a bit. We can point out Boca in all three of goals per game, assists, and total points. Obviously, it seems like there are a few star players per their teams who have been carrying them through the leagues. I don't know exactly who each team or each player plays for, but that race up top is definitely a very close one for MVP.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One thing I do want to point out is that MVP isn't strictly points. It's kind of like a vote we do. So while points are definitely a big influence, it's also a vote. And then from there, we're going.
Go ahead, keep going. Oh yeah, no, I was just going to say, if you look at points, goals plus assists per games played in that last column there, you'll notice Jared, Vision Python, and No Net all on Solar, and then you'll notice two players, Boca and Nanix, both on Pinnacle. Those, for anybody who knows those teams, they are high-scoring teams. They score a lot all the time, and it's pretty clear here in amount they're assisting each other and scoring that this team, both of those teams just run, and I really think we're going to see them make deep pushes in the playoffs, especially with stats like this.
Yeah, Solar obviously at 22-2, and then at Pinnacle at 19-4. So both great teams. And then we're going to shift gears from there, go to some of the upcoming games, and Squeal, you can take that away.
The first one we should have up there is going to be Lucky Sevens or Snowmen. As we previously mentioned before, Lucky Sevens or Snowmen is going to be a big matchup in determining those wild card positions for the Star Conference.
Sorry, the logo
as well. I don't know that, but that's wonderful. So yeah, I think things to keep track of here are that Lucky Sevens has actually lost Scout Brett, and he's been replaced by, I think I have which player. Lucky Sevens has been replaced, Scout has been replaced by Death Penguin. Death Penguin has been on the team for a while. He's just kind of the natural successor to move up into that position now and play alongside Flying Keeper and Sky. But then also on Snowman's side, they've lost Blue Mars, who has now been replaced by their sub option, Lightly Salted Egg.
Lovely name.
Ball thing and I chosen Wiener in that last stream, but Lightly Salted Egg's pretty easy. So I think this is going to be a bit of an interesting matchup. Anytime you have to play with players that you're not used to, you have to work with different chemistry and stuff like that, and we might see some interesting goals happen, stuff like that, but it'll definitely make things a little more interesting.
Yeah, definitely chemistry always is a factor, rotations, knowing where people are. If you're not really confident where your team are, that's definitely going to change how you play. Not to mention, your teammates might be feeling the same way. So that'll be interesting to watch.
In the next matchup we have... Crap, which one's that? Well, yeah, that other one as well is that other critical matchup that we have with the wild card positions happening now over in the other conference. We've got Sentry and Newton's Law. They're going to be directly playing each other. Newton's Law has got huge potential to push up And then Sentry's got huge potential to drop here. Sentry's currently leading over Newton's Law, so really Newton's Law has all of the responsibility on them to hands, essentially. And Sentry just has to make sure they don't get something bad happen to them. Any thoughts on that one at all?
I mean, yeah, we were talking about a little bit earlier. Sentry just needs to perform, and they will seal their spot into the wild card. But Newton's Law can shake the entire thing up, and maybe try to make their own little push. So it'll be, it's good. I haven't seen either of them play, but I'm sure it'll be a fun game.
I believe that we can move on to our interview.
Jared?
Jared, are you here with us now? He said he went to pee a while ago, but he's...
Oh, he's a little quiet.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and ask you some similar questions that we asked to Zynga. If you could, just go ahead and introduce yourself, when you joined, what team did you play for before, what are you doing now?
All right. I joined Season 4, playing for Solar, and Season 5, now I'm the GM of Solar and Galaxy. So I stayed with the same organization for Season 5, and I plan on staying for a while, to be honest.
Yeah, I know you were one of the. I don't even think you were. I think you were the original Solar player. That last season, Solar had a lot of people leaving, but you actually stuck around and formed up a new team.
Yeah, we went 0-7 the first 7 games with forfeits, and then just the scheduling was brutal because we had 2 EU players and young guys, old guys with totally different schedules. It was brutal.
Well, a bit of a different question that we asked Zynga, but still pretty applicable here. Obviously, you've had a huge turnaround. What do you think personally are the changes that you made as GM from last season to this season that really helped get you now this 22-2 record that Solar has?
Honestly, we grabbed a player from Galaxy, No Nut, and he's been great so far. And then we stole one of Snowman's top scorers from last season, Python, and they're both, in my opinion, top 5 players in the league.
Mm-hmm.
That's clear with all the scoring and assisting that y'all do. Kind of maxed out on the offense there.
Yeah.
All right, and then I have my standard questions. Who do you think are the best teams or in the league apart from yourself? And what was your most exciting matchup or matchups that you've had?
Most exciting was easily Pinnacle. It was a close game. You watched that one too.
Oh yeah, that was great. Very, very close.
I think I'll do top teams from each division. I think I'd probably have to take Average Joe's and Hydra as the top 2 from my division, and the other would be probably Pinnacle and Nova from the other.
Yeah. I think I might agree with that myself. Yeah, it's a couple questions for him.
Well, I just want to say one thing. Has anyone ever told Dakotas? You know who Dakotas is? Jared?
He's cutting out. Sorry, what?
You know who Dakotas is?
Dakotas is. No.
He's a streamer. You sound just like him. Like, I swear to God. You sound just like Dakotas. No, that's all I wanted to ask.
Sure.
I think that's it.
I'll ask my final question for you, Jared. Well, you've kind of given your own opinion. Who outside for players wise though? Do you have a top 3 players in the league that you consider?
Yeah, top 3 is kind of tough. I don't know. I'll do a top 5, and this is in no particular order.
Yeah. I
think Boca, Vision Python, No Nut Coconut, MF Problem, and George from Average Joe's when he's on his game.
Yeah, I definitely agree with MF Problem. He's a player that doesn't often get highlighted again because he joined last season, played for Toxic Waste, and still stayed on now. But he gets a lot of goals and assists. He's a very offensive player.
He's looked over a lot, and we just played Toxic Waste, and he played great. He's very offensive and very smart, good mechanically.
And George too. Again, like you said, when he's playing on, especially if his connection allows him, he's a very good player. I've seen him play well. All right. It for our interview, Jared. We really appreciate you coming out as the minor interviewee.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck to Solar as they finish out their final week. I mean, I think y'all have not only clinched the number one position in your division, so congratulations on that. Yeah, hope to see Solar do well in the playoffs.
Yeah, me too. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Now it's time for our minor league discussion. If you guys had anything interesting you wanted to point out.
No,
yeah, you go ahead, Freaky.
At least for me, I think we hit pretty much everything on the nose from minor leagues. If you have anything to say,
sure. Yeah, I can go. I think, honestly, the interesting thing to point out, although it's totally like a pipe dream and something that probably will not happen, but you'll notice Elusive and Calculated in the Star Conference are actually at 9 wins, which is 3 behind Snowmen or L7. Elusive has been on the come up, and I think Calculated has been managing to play games. This last week could possibly, very, very possibly see something happen that one of those teams might actually be able to get in a position for the playoffs. But again, that's a pipe dream. That would be. Don't think it's going to happen. Still, keep your eyes out on.
Got to be a very interesting push. I would put if they won all 4 games, I would push them to 13 and 14. It'll be interesting to see how B Squad, Snowman, and L7 perform. Obviously, to see if they lock up those positions before Elusive can have a chance. But we'll see.
Losses from those wildcard teams for anything really solid to happen. Some teams need to go 0-4. I think B Squad would need to go 0-4 in order to actually be at risk. So something for thought.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's all we have. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. I want to give a big shout out to Squeal, Freaky, and Tid, who was streaming this whole thing patiently this whole time. Thank you guys. I want to thank you all the donors who help us. And thank you for watching another episode of RLPC Roundup. It'll be an exciting next 2 weeks in the Major League and Minor League.
Yeah. Thank you all for watching. Have a good night.